In this video, we will have a rundown on another Anki deck. This is still part of grade 12 biology. I believe this is about um, life science. So this is basically everything that we'll be discussing here. I'm already showing it to you in advance. So yeah, technically still life science. Okay, we'll start. Cartilage. It's a blank tissue that is more flexible than bone. It protects the ends of bones, and keeps them from rubbing together. So every time we move our um, joints, I believe the cartilage is seen in our joints because that's usually where we move. Um, for example, in our forearms, we have hinge joints, meaning they could uh, it's hard to demonstrate without a picture. Hinge joints for arms. So yes, basically in this part of our body, this joint is able to function similar to an opening, um, function similar to a door closing or opening. So yeah, it is a connective tissue. Ah, okay, there's an illustration here. Um, so types of cartilage, we have hyaline, elastic, and fibrocartilage. And I'm not going to discuss the difference between each one. Okay, that's it. Um, blank, it pertains to the back. Ventral? No, dorsal. So, okay. Dorsal body cavity, we have the cranial cavity, that's basically the brain, and the vertebral cavity. And here, I think this is the respiratory region, the lungs. We have the thoracic cavity. We have the diaphragm just below the lungs. And we have the abdominal cavity here and the pelvic cavity. From the word pelvis, pelvis is the bone that's seen here. Okay. Blank is the organism that obtains energy from the foods it consumes. It's also called a consumer. Heterotroph. So, a heterotroph is a living organism that eats other organisms for their energy resource. So, think of the food web. Um, so yeah, I believe um, those at the top of the food web, for example, humans. Well, humans for one are heterotrophs, so that's already a given. Heterotrophic organisms are consumers in the ecosystem because they cannot manufacture their own food. Instead of getting their energy from sunlight, uh, prefix autotroph, they feed on other organisms instead. Okay? Bone tissue. This is dense, hard, blank tissue composing the skeleton. Connective. Okay? So as long as it's bone, then it's connective. Blank tissue. Ah, okay. Bone. What is the function of the hair in your nose? So either of these two is correct. This is a better answer. This one is a characteristic of what your nose hair does, but it's not exactly a function. Um, say this is what happens while it carries out the main function, that is to trap foreign particles and bacteria. So yes, this is the right answer. Blood tissue. This is a kind of connective tissue with a fluid matrix, plasma, in which blank are suspended, in which red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, basically cell fragments, are suspended. By the way, just to let you know, platelets are responsible for um, fixing cuts, um, regardless of how big it is. Usually, typical cuts because of knife accidents, paper cuts. Well, platelets are responsible for closing that wound eventually. White blood cells are responsible for keeping your body protected from any foreign invaders. They eat on um, foreign anything actually that is perceived to be a threat to the immune system. One example, for instance, is when sperm cells, as soon as they reach the female reproductive system, at one point during the journey towards the ovum or the egg cell, certain sperm cells would be perceived as threats to the woman's system. So, as a response, in response, white blood cells are um, responsible for killing off specific sperm cells by eating them. So, yeah. Red blood cells. Red blood cells, basically, they're responsible for keeping your body as it is. Well, say white blood cells are the military, platelets are the medics, red blood cells are the citizens, and they run the country. That's basically it. If you want a more formal definition of red blood cells, uh, in other words, called erythrocyte. So for one thing, they are responsible for delivering oxygen to the body tissues via blood flow. So, recalling what is usually known in the concept of circulatory system, red blood cells, they get oxygenated or deoxygenated depending on where they are in your system. So, if they just came from your heart, they just got pumped. They're given oxygen from your lungs. Um, they'd eventually be sent to the body through the arteries. And coming from the body, once they become deoxygenated, they return to the heart in veins. So yeah. Next. Blank is a body cavity filled with fluid between the endoderm and mesoderm. This is pseudocoelomate. So from the prefix pseudo, this means fake. Coelomate, uh, just associate that with the idea body cavity. So fake body cavity. So what kinds of animals um, have this kind of um, body cavity? I'm not sure what this is. It's familiar. You know what? Let's just search that. See animals that have. No. Okay, nematodes. Nematodes, in other words, flatworms, I think. Yeah. Rotiferous, gastrich, and what the heck? Introverts. Huh? Introverts are animals. I never knew that. Okay, so also annelids. Annelids are roundworms. All worms basically. No, no, no. Eucoelomate is different from pseudo, as you can see here. Flatworm, acoelomate, annelid, eucoelomate. For pseudocoelomate, we have nematodes, roundworms. Okay. Blank is an animal whose mouth is formed from the blastopore, protostome. I think for humans, we are deuterostomes. Um, So for protostomes, we have mollusks, annelids, and arthropods. Um, Basically, this is what it looks like. The mouth basically develops from the blastopore. So the anus is here, the mouth is below. It's opposite um, for the heterostomes. As you can see in this figure, the mouth is above, the anus is below. So whatever is here, that's the anus. It develops from the blastopore. So chordates, that includes us, as well as echinoderms, I believe starfish. Yeah, starfish and sea urchins. They um they exhibit being deuterostomes. So just think it this way: for humans, of course, the mouth is above, the anus is below. It's it resembles real life humans. So I guess that's one way to memorize. Okay. Blank is the muscle tissue found in the walls of hollow organs and under involuntary control. Epithelial? No, smooth muscle. So there are two types of muscles in terms of whether it's voluntary or involuntary. So the first type is voluntary. And under this category, we have skeletal muscles. As we all know, whenever we move our body, it is um, it is because of our cerebrum that we are able to make certain commands that carries out physical functions. So naturally, it makes sense that um, well, your skeleton cannot move on your own. Of course, you have muscles, and they're responsible for making the movement. So yeah, skeletal muscles are muscles that encompass um, skeleton, skeletal bones in the body. Your arms, your legs, uh, yeah. Um, to be safe, those are just the skeletal muscles. I believe there are some more, but yeah. Involuntary muscles, we have cardiac and smooth muscles. Smooth muscles usually are, well, not usually. It's standard that smooth muscles um, basically encompass delicate organs in the body, the digestive system, the kidneys, uh, among other things. And cardiac muscles, well, this is very unique because um, it's basically the muscle that encompasses the human heart. So it's very special. It's a very special kind of muscle. Okay. Like what I said earlier, the digestive system, this is the stomach, this is the small and large intestine, as well as the kidneys. For cardiac muscle, we have the heart. So from the word involuntary, these kinds of muscles move without voluntary control. So, as we all know, particularly for cardiac, for our heart, um, it pumps involuntarily. Because if it doesn't, then we'll all die eventually in a few seconds. Um, if the body fails to receive enough um, oxygen and if it doesn't get pumped in the heart, if the blood doesn't get pumped in the heart. So, yeah. Of course, our kidneys have to function um 24/7. We don't make it overwork. Of course, we with the help of aquaporins, we don't have to drink or release 180 liters of water a day. Drink 180 liters of water and release 180 liters of urine. So, yeah. Next. What helps support and keep the trachea and bronchi open? I believe it's cartilage ring. Yeah. Let's search it. Okay, so keyword rings. Oops. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, as you can see here, uh, should keep the trachea and bronchi open. These are the bronchial tubes. This is the trachea. So there's a ring somewhere here. So it keeps it open. Fibrous tissue wouldn't make sense if that were the answer. Next. Blank is the most abundant and most widely distributed of the tissues. This is epithelial. Just kidding. Connective. Um, these tissues, I keep saying epithelial. It's kind of funny. These tissues perform a variety of functions, particularly support and protection. So, types of connective tissue we have blood, loose connective, adipose, dense, bone, and cartilage. So, yeah. Elastin fiber, fibroblasts, collagen fiber. Um, this has been mentioned in a previous vid. What is what are adipose cells again? Mm. Okay, so adipose tissue, usually more notably in animals or well, for example, let's take animals for example. Um, those certain animals that reside in temperate or Arctic regions, Arctic climates, usually they have adipose tissue in the sense that it's strong enough for them to have proper insulation. They don't, they're able to withstand really cold temperatures. So, yeah, um, adipocytes are energy storing cells that contain large globules of fat known as lipid droplets surrounded by structural network of fibers. So, yeah, just remember the keyword insulation. Animals that possess a true coleum or body cavity, this is coelomate. Okay, so annelids are coelomates. Flatworms, the most basic kind of worms, are acoelomate. From the prefix a, if that's even a prefix. Um, there is no coelomate at all. How is acoelomate different from pseudocoelomate? Let's see. Okay, so for acoelomates, they do not have a body cavity. For pseudocoelomates, they have a coelom. Uh, in layman's terms, they have a body cavity that's basically it resembles something that's seen in a coelomate, but it's not completely the same, I suppose. Total absence of body cavity, that's acoelom. Presence of patches of mesoderm in the body cavity. So this phrase refers to pseudocoelom. So there are patches of mesoderm. If it's a coelom, uh, that's the presence of a body cavity that's lined by mesoderm. So for pseudocoelom, we only have patches of mesoderm. If it's a coelom, there is a complete mesoderm lining. I think this is what is being stated here. Okay. Cartilage. This is a connective tissue that is more flexible than the bone. Okay, this has been discussed earlier. Pertaining to the back, dorsal. Bone tissue, then hard connective tissue. Blank is refers to animals in which the blastopore becomes the anus. This is deuterostomes because blastopore becomes the anus. There you go. So the anus is over here, the mouth is at the top. That's the layout for deuterostomes. For sorry. For protostomes, on the other hand, the anus is at the top, the mouth is located below. Next, blank is an animal that lacks a coelom or body cavity. A coelomate. Multicellular animal, metazoan. So this is an entire list. Cnidarians, mollusks, we have snails, annelids, uh, roundworms, arthropods, cockroaches, beetles, echinoderms, starfishes, Urochordata. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this is. Chordata, humans. Okay, so for porifera, Placozoa, and Choanoflagellate, they have no neuron or synapse whatsoever. I think porifera, these are corals. Let me confirm. Sponges. What are corals? What's the fine one for corals? Ah, Nidaria. Okay, my mistake. Porifera, we have sponges. SpongeBob, just remember SpongeBob is porifera. Netophora and Nidaria. Nidaria, we have. What is this? Looks like a shrimp. Uh, so we have corals. So they have neurons and or synapses as nerve net muscles. No. Synapse muscles. But for these, they have neurons or synapses. They have muscles and there is a central nervous system. It makes sense for arthropods because cockroaches, well, not just cockroaches, flies, they are able to respond a lot faster compared to humans. That's why it's so hard to kill them because even before we are able to kill them, they have already escaped because they have a central nervous system. They're able to process what to do in order for them to ensure survival, their survival. Okay? Blank is an organism that obtains energy from the foods it consumes. Heterotrophs. We've seen this earlier. Function of hair in the nose, trap foreign particles and bacteria. Blank tissue. This is dense hard connective tissue composing the skeleton. Connective. Joke, just kidding. Bone tissue. I didn't see this. Where does the oxygenated blood go after it leaves the heart? Oxygenated blood. Well, it goes to the body. Through the arteries. After oxygenation and after being pumped in the heart, they go to the body in order to distribute the oxygen, and in return, they receive carbon dioxide. And that is, well, I think the transition from being transported in arteries and into veins eventually, I think it's through capillaries to train stations basically. So yeah, to the body. To the lungs, this is pulmonary circulation. To the heart, this is. We'll leave it at that. I forgot the term. Front of the body, ventral. Yep. So dorsal is at the back, ventral is at the front, medial is, well, the medium. The It's basically the center. Lateral, left, right, cranial here, caudal there. The plane that slices the body into two parts left and right. That's the sagittal plane. Uh, what slices the person into two, in terms of front and back, is the coronal plane. So at the back again, we have dorsal, and in the front we have ventral. Distal, pertaining to, I believe, the upper limbs. Can't be more specific than that. Transverse plane, by the way, it it divides the body into two parts. Um, one is the upper region, one is the lower region. This is the transverse plane. Okay. Blood tissue. This is a connective tissue with a fluid matrix plasma in which, okay, this has been mentioned earlier. Next. What is your windpipe called? The trachea. This is different from the esophagus, although the location is, well, they're very close to each other. Um, but there is a tendency for food to enter the trachea, but I think it's because of the epiglottis that um, food is ensured to stay in the esophagus instead of going to the trachea. Let's confirm that information. There you go. Knew it. I still remember it. Epiglottis. Let's see what it looks like. So the epiglottis is right there. Where is the esophagus? Let's find an image where both the esophagus and trachea are seen. Okay. So this is the trachea. It's in front. The esophagus is over here. The epiglottis is right there. Okay. This is very memorable. Yeah, nasopharyngeal cancer. Anyways. Blank is the body cavity filled with fluid between the endoderm and mesoderm. Have we seen this card before? Yeah, pseudocoelomate. So again, patches of endoderm. Just kidding, patches of mesoderm. For coelomate, on the other hand, we have a complete mesoderm lining. Blank is an animal whose mouth is formed from the blastopore. This is protostomes. What are the tiny air sacs in the lungs called? Alveoli. So one thing to note is that once oxygen reaches eventually, so we start from the nose through the trachea and eventually the bronchi. They would eventually reach tiny grape-like, well, they look like grapes, air sacs in the lungs called alveoli. So these alveoli, basically, there are capillaries that are attached in these alveoli for a purpose. So once the oxygen reaches the alveoli, they get transferred to the blood that's present in those capillaries, in those attached capillaries, and from there, the blood gets oxygenated. So yeah. Skeletal muscle. Striated muscle and under voluntary control. So again, we have three types of muscle. This one is voluntary, these two are involuntary. For skeletal, it's striated. From its appearance here, this is striated. And yeah, under voluntary control. That's skeletal indeed. Blank is the opening of the central cavity of an embryo in the early stage of development. So this is the blastopore. So we have the blastula and the gastrula. So the blastopore is here. This is the opening. Again, if the anus is formed here and the mouth is formed here, uh, that's a deuterostome. If the anus is formed here and here the mouth is formed, then that's a protostome. So this is what I just said. Okay. Blank is the muscle tissue found in the walls of hollow organs and under involuntary control. So hollow organs, it doesn't state anything related to the heart. So this is smooth muscle. Okay. Hollow organs, or basically delicate ones. What is the function of cilia in your airways? Let's read the first statement. Create a beating movement to sweep trapped particles. Maybe. I think it's the first statement. How about the second? Aids goblet cells. Aren't goblet cells related to the blood? Okay, I think it's statement A. Is it? Yeah. In what context do we see goblet cells? So I think, okay. Secrete mucin and create a protective mucus layer. Immunoregulation. So if it's not cilia that's responsible for doing this, what aids goblet cells? What aids goblet cells to capture and ingest trap? Okay, it's clear that I've searched this before. Okay, so there's no direct answer. Screw it. Let's just move on. What helps support and keep the trachea and bronchi open? Cartilage ring. Body plan that can be divided into two similar halves by two or more longitudinal planes. So, longitude. I can't remember. Radial symmetry. Okay. Okay, so what I was thinking is different. Turned out to be different. So for plants, for leaf clover, actinomorphic flower. What kind of symmetry are humans? Bilateral. Okay. So we are not radially symmetrical. We are bilaterally symmetrical. Blank is the most abundant, most widely distributed. Connective. Yeah. I thought it was epithelial. I guess not. It covers the body surface. Forms the lining for most internal cavities. Epithelial tissue. So this is the one that I was anticipating. Covers the body surface. Forms the lining for most internal cavities. So there are many types of epithelium depending on what part we're referring to in the body. So there's simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, transitional, pseudostratified columnar, stratified cuboidal, and stratified squamous. So yeah. What is the space where your nose and mouth meet? Nose and mouth. I think it's the trachea. Because your mouth, if you don't breathe using your nose, you can also breathe using your mouth, right? Nope, it's not the trachea, it's the pharynx. Well, this is an opportunity to learn from that mistake. Where the nose and mouth meet, the pharynx. I think larynx is also dubbed as the voice box. Let's confirm that. Yeah. How is the larynx different from the pharynx? Okay, so the pharynx is located above, larynx is below in terms of location. Okay, blastopore becomes the anus, deuterostomes. Body plan, bilateral symmetry. Yeah. Two equal halves. Sponges are asymmetrical. They have no symmetry at all. By what process does the carbon dioxide move from the bloodstream to the alveoli and the oxygen move from the alveoli to the bloodstream? Okay, so this is something that's similar to what I said earlier. It's very close. Um, the attachment of capillaries to the alveoli. Uh, from there is a trade. Basically, from the party of the alveoli, the blood trades in carbon dioxide in exchange for the oxygen coming from the uh, alveoli. So this is diffusion, I believe. Yeah. Why is it not osmosis? Well, just think that it's diffusion. Diffusion, that's if there's an exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the alveoli region. Next. Animals that possess a true coelom, coelomate. Nerve tissue. It is composed of specialized cells which not only blank but also conduct impulses to and from all body parts. Receive stimuli. So the tendency is, if you receive a certain stimuli, say you accidentally touch something really hot, so it causes the conduction of an impulse that makes you move your finger or hand away from it. Okay. So nervous tissue or nerve tissue is basically animal tissue made out of mainly nerve cells and neuroglia cells. So far, just to list down all the kinds of tissues that we've discussed, we have epithelial, connective, and nervous. I think there's one more type that we're yet to discuss. Multicellular animal, metazoan. Involuntary muscles that are not under your voluntary control or conscious control. So these are um, skeletal muscles, I believe, because of this. They are voluntary. These are involuntary. We have the heart, the urinary bladder, small and large intestine, arteries as well, the kidneys, as well as the respiratory system. Blood tissue, a connective tissue. An animal that lacks a coelom or body cavity, a coelomate. What happens when you inhale? I think statement 1 is true. No, rib muscles contract. Nope, I don't think this is correct. Letter C, diaphragm relaxes, pushing upward. I don't think the diaphragm pushes upward. Okay. I think it's A and B. D isn't better than letter B. So pulling in air, we just want to know what happens in the diaphragm. Does it pull downward or upward? I think it's AB. There you go. Let's see if we could visualize that. So when it pulls downwards, okay, so inhale, diaphragm pulls downwards, and when it exhales, it pulls upwards. Okay, makes sense. Where does the oxygenated blood go after it leaves the heart? To the body. Front of the body, ventral. Okay, we've finished the Anki deck already. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.